What do you believe PA students like the most about this program, about your program?
Good question. What I've heard from them is the small group size and the dynamic of the students supporting each other. You know, if everyone earns an A, everyone can get an A. So there doesn't need to be any competition in that realm. And students will find, you know, this person's great to study chemistry with, or this person's great to study anatomy with, and, you know, different teams and kind of fluctuating groups of ways to support one another. So, you know, nobody is good at everything, but it's nice to have their unique strength rise and be able to help the rest of their team learn that information in a timely fashion. So I think it's the cohesiveness, the small class size, and then the faculty support, because again, of the small class size that helps them out.
Mm-hmm. So this next question is kind of like a double question. So what do you like most about being a part of Cali Baptist and like specifically PA, like the PA program?
Well, that's a very good question. I've been with the faculty since before the program started, and they were gearing up for all the things. And so I like being a part of the history, knowing them well. They're good people, and I would count them as friends as well. It was very exciting to see our first cohort come in, and then I got to stand there and applaud at graduation. I'm like, yes, we accomplished our whole thing.
We did it.
Yes, exactly. And they did it. So it's been great to see the program develop further. You know, I lived, breathed, and ate every detail about those first students. And now I'm like, hi, you're a PA student. So the group has grown, you know, exponentially from very small to a larger group of alumni. But we recently did a video for sort of a campus tour, and 2 of our students came back. So it's fun to catch up with them, what they were doing now, hear about their experience and how they thought CBU had prepared them well. So I, as an individual, have sort of fallen in love with the PA role, and I now want to be a PA too, because, you know, it's so easy to get into, and I know exactly where my shortcomings are and what I have to do. So I've been taking all my prerequisites and working my GPA up as much as I can, getting my patient care experience. So it hooked me from like, to I want to do that job every day.
That's awesome.
So I have to credit, CBU's motto is live your purpose. So I have to be able to credit it for helping me identify mine as I work.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Do you find your graduates are more likely to work in a particular field when they graduate?
I just asked on that about our alumni page about that, and they said a lot of them are in family practice. Someone else had asked me, were they directed toward that field? And they said, no, it's really the available jobs. You know, they were already established here in Southern California, or they, you know, wanted to stay here. And those were tending to be the things that they found the most frequently. But some of them work in bariatric surgery, and some have moved out of the area and work in pediatrics. So the theme was, you know, mostly family practice, but not exclusively.
Do you guys prefer any experiences more than others, like working with rural populations or mission trips, or what kind of things really stand out to you when you guys are looking through applications?
Well, that is a good 2-part question too. So as far as experience, if it's something that we consider patient care, it counts. And there's not one that's better than another, but you do need to have the 1,000 hours of patient care experience minimum at the time you apply. So that's that part. We do have a preference for people who do have a heart to serve underserved populations. And that can be in rural medicine, it can be, you know, clinics in low income areas, it can be international and missions trips. So those are all a plus, they're not required. But that is part of our mission of why the program was created here, because there are so many medically underserved people, even just here in the Inland Empire of Southern California. So we were hoping to fill that provider gap by providing, you know, training and having graduates staying here and serving some of those folks. Okay. So those things are a plus if an applicant has them.
Does your program favor applicants that attended undergrad at Cal Baptist?
There is a preference for that, and so they get a little extra boost. In practicality, they would most likely, if they qualify, get an interview. They still need to deliver at that interview to earn a seat in the program. So there's no number of seats that are held for undergrads. It's fluctuated a bit, just depending year to year on the applicant pool. But they would hopefully get a chance as an undergrad, but it's not like we're, you know, hardlining it with a certain number that are reserved. So we've had, I think, 3 one year, so that was 10%. We've had 7 other years, so that's more like 21%. So it varies a bit.
Now, is that the same? Do you guys, like for in-state residents, do you guys kind of have a preference for that? Or, because obviously me and Makenzie, we're out of state, we're in Missouri, so
Right.
kind of far away, but would you
Yeah.
guys favor in-state over out of state?
I would say yes. And again, that's because they want you to be serving here in Southern California
Right.
to graduate. We have certainly had people from California who moved away, and that's okay. And we've had a lot of people from other states as well. We had some twins from New York. When I was reviewing your application, I'm like, wait, these girls have the same birthday. I was momentarily confused. We've had people from Ohio and Texas and Colorado. So it's not a deal breaker. If you're a good candidate, then definitely apply. And right now we're doing interviews remotely. So that's been a help in facilitating that access to applicants all over. So we hope we'll still have that option even when things are a little bit closer back to normal. We do prefer California, but it's not an exclusion if you're from anywhere else.
Right. Okay.
Do you think that this will hinder the application process with it being remote, since usually sometimes people who are traveling aren't able to meet that interview, and then the next person, it trickles down, and so now that everything's remote, it's maybe a little bit harder.
Okay, if I've understood your question right, then from our perspective, it's getting us access to the best qualified applicants from all over. And, they might be from farther afield this year, just by chance. We haven't studied that particular information in depth. So individually, that's a whole different question for that applicant. It might be, but I hope that it would provide opportunities for people who maybe didn't have the means to travel for interviews or were working and couldn't get away, those kinds of things, to have a chance to introduce themselves to us remotely. It's a different interface, but we would, still see something in them that matches with our program. So it's difficult to say if it would hinder it, depending on if you're looking from an individual or institutional perspective. I think we still had some very high quality candidates this year, so we'll have to see how that all plays out.
Okay.
So just overall, like in terms of looking at your applications and everything, do you guys look more like holistically or more at certain areas, like outweighing others?
Well, GPA is certainly important. To be considered, you have to have a 3.2 overall as calculated by CASPA. And then you have to have a 3.0 in science and also prerequisites.
Okay.
So that's crucial. And unfortunately, they like to invite for interview the students with the higher overall GPAs. So I think there's unfortunately less of a chance of being invited if you're in that 3.2 or 3.3 range. And if you're in